I just want to talk a little bit about the technology that we built that we believe is going to help all of us have an impact and significance in the global role that we're all playing to make the planet a better place. So what we essentially built is a platform that does many different things. And for the relevance of this conversation about reinventing ourselves and reinventing how we positively impact the planet, what we were able to do is create a system that allows us to track and issue carbon credits and exchange them. So the very interesting thing, I don't know if you guys know exactly how the carbon market works, but really I want to just kind of like touch on this because Rola is going to talk about how personally we can engage in lots of different things. And is there a slide up there? So the carbon market, I had it explained to me, and really want to like break it down and how blockchain actually ties into this. So with carbon markets, there's two sides. There's the polluters, and then there's the actual people that are doing the good. And what we want to do is we want to incentivize people to reduce their carbon footprint and essentially become carbon neutral. So what we do is when we want to incentivize good behavior or good actions, so whether it's using renewable energy to run your business or making sure that certain things are controlled for and you're not emitting as much. And on the other side, we want to regulate and penalize the people that are polluting the planet. So how we can actually do this is by putting fines on the people that are polluting and having the counterpart for them to issue carbon credits to people that are behaving positively towards the planet. So if you're doing good, you're being rewarded with credits. And what the regulators are actually doing is forcing these polluters to offset their carbon emissions by purchasing these carbon credits. So what we want to do is we want to create a free-flowing ecosystem that is allowing people to personally engage in this marketplace by doing good. So if you take your bike rather than take your car to work, you should be rewarded for those actions. And not only are you being rewarded by personally having positive impact on the planet, but you should be financially rewarded for that as well. So what we're doing is the regulators are forcing these polluters to acquire these carbon credits. And what we're enabling with our platform to do is really bring this to consumers. So if you're able to do these sustainable actions and change your behavior so that you can offset your carbon footprint, you can actually be selling these credits to these large polluters. And so together we want to create this ecosystem that allows us to participate. And I think from there we can kind of go deeper into the tech, but I think we're getting too close to drinks to go deep in tech right now. So I'm going to turn it over to Rola.
Yeah, so the point being here that this is the external side, right? So we know that we're facing a pretty big climate crisis, essentially. With Venn, it's carbon backed, so it's great to have this explanation of carbon credits, and there are various people looking to bring carbon onto the blockchain. But it actually goes wider than that, and it's a bigger issue than that because it also really covers the Sustainable Development Goals, which we spoke about a little bit earlier. These are just some of them that are goals for 2030. So no poverty, zero hunger, climate action, life below water. These are all areas where we could be working, right? Carbon is one aspect of it, but if we're actually going to fix the problems that we have, the systemic problems that we have, we need to be thinking differently about the work that we're actually doing. So this session, and I wish more people had stayed because all these people are building these great money-making carbon token asset systems and projects, but what are they actually doing to make the planet better or to improve? Like certainly financial inclusion, we talked about some of these things, but there's a lot of really big issues that we need to be tackling. Here in Bermuda, I'm a big believer that like Bermuda could become like the laboratory for ocean-related work, right? We have these incredible reefs. We're in the middle of the Atlantic Gyre. Like there is so much, like Bermuda could, with blockchain and a focus on the environment, and then even looking at oceans, really change the planet because the whole life of the planet depends to some extent on the oceans. So Kerem's talking about carbon. We're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, and as you look at building businesses or advocating for projects or creating projects, it's great to be doing Hollywood, entertainment, asset tokenization, the legal work around it, but this is the stuff that we as a people need to be doing to ensure our own survival, right? And our own prosperity. So that's the external side. And now Rola is going to take us on a journey to the internal side, because our belief is that it's great to sort of sit there and be like, oh, okay, I want to hit some of these goals, or I want to work towards some of these things, but we won't actually be successful in advocating solutions or creating the solutions for the external stuff if we don't actually get there on the internal side first. So we really wanted to end today with some serious internal work on your own, like let's just call it your own internal liquidity. How are you going to raise your level of energy and your own level of internal power to be able to execute at the level that we need to be able to execute to solve existential problems? That's why we brought Rola to Bermuda. So over to Rola.
Thank you.
And you might want to stand up if you feel like it.
Maybe in a minute. So guys, the reason that we wanted to incorporate an internal perspective is because we're here and it's all about tech and it's all about innovation. And we're very externally driven, as are our lives, yes? It's rare that we take the opportunity to focus inwardly and pay attention to what we're doing about innovating from an internal perspective that's going to affect our external results, right? So the work that we do involves understanding behavioral patterns that affect your work, affect your relationships. There's a reason that mindfulness is coming into corporate America today, because there's value in understanding how that is affecting our lives, because what we do internally is 100% related to our success and our peak performance. So taking the time to really understand what it is that, how we're operating, because there's a reason we do everything in our lives, whether it's our work or how we're behaving, whatever it is, there's patterns. And once we learn what those patterns are, we identify them, we can raise our awareness around them, and once we do that, that awareness allows us to adjust accordingly, where we can adjust our behavior. And how this ties back into the planet and how important it is that we do something involves some of our own behavior changes, right? So we're at a point where the planet's in a little bit of trouble. And so we wanted to make sure we address that and then introduce some ways to identify how we can improve ourselves by identifying behavioral patterns that are affecting us today. Because what you do, everything you're doing has a reason. So if you guys are open to it, we wanted to have a discussion, and we'll go into this and take it around the room a little bit, but go into the 6 human needs. Has anyone ever heard of 6 human needs psychology in the room? Awesome, so we've got a couple, beautiful, okay, good. So for those of you who've never heard of it, 6 human needs comes from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but Tony Robbins took it further and refined it, and it's been around for decades now, where they teach the psychology to understand our behavior and what we're driven by. So whether it's your work or your relationships, once you identify these 6 needs, identify what your personal top 2 needs are, this will show you the direction of your life, all the decisions you're making, why you're making them, why you're addicted to certain things, why you turn away from other things. Now, I want to emphasize that these are needs. They're not nice to haves. They're things that we do consciously or subconsciously. So we may not even be aware why we're doing these things. But again, once we identify them, we can start to see the patterns of behavior and then adjust to become better human beings, and in turn, hopefully do better things for our planet and each other. Make sense? So what are these human needs? They start with, they're going to sound very simple, and then we're going to dive in a little deeper, and then we'd love to hear how you guys identify with the different levels and what your top 2 are, and then we can help you understand how that's affecting your life.
And you have pads there, so as you go through this, like rank your 6 needs, right? So you want to rank them from 1 to 6 as we go through this. So there's paper and pencil there. Part of the workshop is actually you taking that moment to listen to this and then rank your own needs. So once she gets them out, you'll be able to like figure out what's most important for you.
So we start with certainty, the need for certainty, and we all find ways for certainty, and every single person is different how they meet their needs. So The need for certainty is like the survival need, what you need to feel safe and grounded. One person might need $1 million in their bank account to feel certainty. Another might need to pray to God every day. So we all meet those needs in different ways. You may find that in your work, you find actually we're in a room, I think, mostly of entrepreneurs. So certainty is typically low and never in the top 2 for entrepreneurs. I've yet to see it. It's pretty low. What you'll see in a room like this typically are some of the other ones. So there's only a certain amount of certainty that we need in our lives before we'll need to meet the need for variety, because we get bored. We need to get things moving and changing for us to still stay engaged. So the need for variety is the second need. You'll often see that with entrepreneurs, because there's usually very little consistency in being an entrepreneur. So again, everyone identifies that variety need in different ways. Somebody might go skydiving for the need to get that need fulfilled. Someone else might just go to dinner every night or sleep around or whatever it is. It's their thing. And it's, again, different from each person. I also want to note that it changes as you change. So it's not fixed in time. If today this is your need, like I would imagine for you, variety is quite high.
Yeah, I was thinking of it.
I would say if not
it's
number one
so
yeah,
far.
I would say so. So for those of you who know Stan's involved in so many different projects, and so he's stimulated all the time based on that need. So he's definitely satisfying that one at a high level. So once we meet the need for variety, we move on to the need for significance. Everybody needs to feel special and important in their own way. So someone might meet that need by dressing in certain ways, whether it's in labels from head to toe or piercings and tattoos. It's whatever is important to them that makes them feel special. And then that could apply in other ways as well. So significance is, we see a lot of it typically in men. Not to say that it doesn't come up in women, but you typically can note when someone feels the need for significance at the first level because it stands out. Again, there's no right or wrong. We all have these needs and they're needs. So I want to make sure that no one identifies with, I don't want to identify with that being my number one. It's not bad. It's just where you are, right? Because we have all of them. So once we meet that need for significance, we meet the need for love or connection. Often people will settle for connection because they can't find love, or maybe they've gone through some pain and heartache and they stay away from love, so they meet that connection. And again, this applies to work as well. And as we're going through these, I encourage you to think about your company and your businesses, because it will really help with the communication of the people in your company. Because if you notice how they behave, because unless you have them take a test, you're just gonna have to do it off observation, but you'll be able to have greater communication with your teams and your businesses and everyone you interact with. So for love and connection, maybe you'll notice someone who often, actually in New York, all the men have dogs because they've given up on connecting and having relationships, it feels. But it depends, again, on the person, on how they meet those needs. So again, love and connection, the fourth need, and those are the needs of the personality. They're all emotional needs. The needs of the spirit or the soul are the need for growth and for contribution. And these are the needs that sometimes get left behind, even though they're still needs. But people, to find full satisfaction in life, gotta meet all these needs at a high level. I want to use the example of when someone's in a relationship. When someone first gets into a relationship, all their needs are being met. They've got variety. They're doing things with each other and experiencing, like, the city or wherever they live, taking trips. They've got significance because that person's making them feel special and telling them how wonderful they are. They're connecting and getting that love. They're getting growth, right? Because they're growing and learning new things together. And I don't know where contribution fits, but it can. So that all their needs are being met at a high level, and people go into the relationships feeling great and wonderful. And as time goes on and experiences happen, and maybe some resentment and some unaddressed issues, then the relationship starts to deteriorate. So on a scale from 1 to 10, where those needs are being met, maybe significance drops to an 8. Variety drops because we get used to that person. We're now watching Netflix at home for the last 2 years rather than going out to dinner. And as those drop, that's why relationships start to shift in the other direction. We've worked with so many people where literally on the brink of divorce, where they would not sleep in the same room together. And once we addressed the needs and identified where they were on a scale from 1 to 10 and had them identify that to each other, because they met them in different ways, right? Just because I have a need for certainty, I get that met in my relationship differently than what my partner will. So it's important to identify specifically in relationships, and again, not just romantic relationships, business relationships, friendships. It affects everything across the board. So once you identify it, you get to see what patterns of behavior you have in order to help adjust and identify how you're behaving in life. If I didn't mention this already, I may repeat it. The top 2 needs are what decides the direction of your life. So here's an example. If you meet the need for significance at a high level at number 1, for example, and love and connection now comes second, third, or whatever it is, you won't open your heart to that person unless that person makes you feel significant. Or let's say certainty is your number 1. If you don't feel certain and solid about that person, you're not going to let that person in until certainty is there, and then you'll allow that person in. And you can flip that any way you want. So variety is important. You start to identify your behavior based on where they fall.
Okay, so this is a workshop, so it's going to continue to evolve into more action. So we're going to take this question in a second, but you've now gone through the 6 needs, so hopefully you've all got them written down, but in case you don't have them written down, let's just repeat those 6 needs real quick, and then rank your top 2, because this is going to be important in about 5 minutes.
Yeah. So the need for certainty, the survival need, variety, the need to change it up, be introduced to new things, significance, where you feel special, important, love/connection, so you can have either or, one of the 2, or both. Growth and contribution. So contributing back to greater causes, maybe your community, your friends, your family, past you. And then growth, growing your business, growing in whatever ways.
Can I ask a question too? So these are reflecting on internally and personally. Are we able to use these 6 needs to create maybe a company culture or corporate culture?
Well, this is exactly what we're going to do with this workshop. So as you guys write these 6 down, pick out your top 2, okay? And you're going to give you another 30 seconds, because what we're going to do is we're then going to group you according to your highest need, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to map that back against the Sustainable Development Goals. So we're going to pick the goals, the Sustainable Development Goals that work most closely with these needs, and we're going to essentially help you build a team that's actually interested in these things. And so this is where the interactive part of this workshop starts out. So we're going to give you like a good 30 seconds to finish mapping your needs, and then we're going to group you into these 6 groups. Got it? Everybody clear on that?
Depending on how many needs are in the room.
Well, unless there's no.
Let's see what we
Let's see if everybody comes out in the top needs. But so let's just say that in a moment here, this table will become certainty. This table will become variety. This table will become significance.
Don't make me move.
This table will become
Love and connection.
love and connection. This table with Dr. Dre will become growth. Scooby-Doo, Dr. Dre, yeah. I like, and then this table here will become contribution. Okay? So if you guys have your 6, you can move to that table now and find your people. You take your number 1, and go. So if your number 1 is certainty, here. If your number 1 is variety, come here. If your number 1 is
Significance.
certainty, variety, significance here, love and connection, growth, and contribution. Yeah. It's actually good.
Growth, that one.
We're going to reflect this on companies, culture.
Tasha, which table are you? Come on. This is all about participation. Okay, again, we have variety. We have so this is team certainty over here.
Certainty.
High certainty. We have variety, the variety guys. I'd probably be on this table. Here's love and connection, which seems to be very popular. And growth, right?
I'm there with you
Allison,
guys in
are you?
spirit.
Come on, come play.
Come play.
Come play. What's your highest goal? This could be your next movie, like the gem of your next movie. And you in the back. I don't know your name. What's your highest? William. Okay, go to the certainty table.
Right here.
Okay. So guys, so this is cool because, like, look at the people at your table, right? First of all, this is your tribe, right? These are your people. These are the people who get you, right? So it's kind of fun to break this apart in a group and be like, oh, these people that have the same interests that I do. Now what we want you guys to do is spend the next, say, 10 minutes and look at the Sustainable Development Goals. So we have no poverty. We have ending hunger. We have life below water. We have, you can kind of come up and get a closer look, clean water and sanitation, or just look on your phone, Google the Sustainable Development Goals. Which of these goals maps most highly to your highest strategic interest, right? And what we're trying to do is help you think about how you can apply your own internal clock, your own internal you, towards fixing the planet, right? So these different aspects could potentially incorporate all of these different things, but what we'd like you to do is pick one, right? You're a like-minded group. Pick one of these goals and then spend the next 10 minutes iterating and thinking on this goal, because you're already going to be aligned now as a group, and you're going to then be able to align your thinking and your priorities towards one of these goals. And then we're going to share the result, okay? So we've got 10 minutes now to do that, and then we'll all share.
For those of you I didn't share this with, it's important to note whenever you are identifying behaviors that you want to change or continue, when you identify 3 of the 6 human needs as a behavior you want to continue or discontinue, 3 of the 6 will have you addicted to that behavior. So for example, I just shared this one. If you're someone who wants to work out all the time and that's what you love to do, it's because it meets at least 3 of those needs and you become addicted to that behavior. So it meets the need for variety because you're going in and doing something different. It meets the need for certainty because your body's going to continue moving in a different way, or growth. It can meet multiple needs in that way. It creates a state change in the body, so that can be variety as well. So identifying, as you think of your own behaviors that you want to continue or you want to get better at or you want to discontinue, identifying what needs are being met in that behavior will help you change it or bring it in. And another note, if you notice that you tend to sabotage yourself, it's because you're moving away, and this is a little off track, but I feel like it's so important I wanted to add it. Whenever you notice that you feel, because often people talk about they feel like they sabotage themselves. Have anyone had that experience where they feel like they get in their own way? Yeah, most of us, right? We have that from time to time. So the reason that you are sabotaging yourself, quote unquote sabotaging yourself, is because you are identifying more pain to that experience of getting to your goal than you have associated pleasure. So when you associate more pain than pleasure to the work that needs to be done to get there, you're not going to do it. You are going to sabotage. You're going to force yourself to stop. So whatever that looks like, identifying that you've done that and reframing it to identify it and perceive it in a positive light will help you move towards whatever it is you're working towards. Does that make sense? We all got that. So keep that in mind whenever you want to change behavior, and if you're getting in your own way, the sabotage, identifying pain and pleasure, and then also when you identify with 3 of the needs meeting or 3 of the 6 needs being met, you're going to work towards that. So apply that to your businesses whenever you think of, like, as you're building your company, the company culture, how you can incorporate that, because everybody in your company are trying to meet those needs as well. And if people who work for you are getting their needs met at work, they're going to love coming to work, right? And that company morale is going to build, and you're going to be able to build a great company. That's what the companies like Google and Apple and all of them are building, that company culture on satisfying those needs because they understand that. And once you do that, that company culture, in the end, that's an energy that you're creating, and that energy is going to result in more of a peak performance that results in the accelerated results that you're looking for. And I just want to share one more thing real quick that I think is really valuable. There's a really great study, because we're all emotional beings, we're this vibration of energy as we move around and we're sharing energy. Something I do is teach about sales and persuasion. I go into companies and I teach about that. And we start with the idea that sales is a transfer of emotion from one person to another. We're all transferring emotion to each other. So it's important to identify what kind of emotion am I sharing and transferring to the next person. So when you're interacting, you're presenting your material to a client, it's important for you to identify it. And it's important to be able to change internally and adjust your internal state in order to transfer the proper emotion. So there's a study done at USC. A neuroscientist did a study on their patients whose brain hemispheres had been severed. And the logical side was still intact, but the emotional side had been damaged. So these researchers wanted to understand, now that the emotional side isn't interfering with the logic, how quickly can these patients make decisions? But what they found was, even though these patients could identify and make sense of the logic, they couldn't make decisions at all. So they concluded that we all make decisions emotionally, and then we justify it with logic. So think about that next time you present to a client or whatever it is you're doing, trying to convince your spouse or your kid to do something. We're driven by emotion. You can give all the logic in the world, but unless you move someone emotionally, they're not going to be persuaded to follow your lead. We've got to move people emotionally. How do we do that? Many ways, including 6 human needs psychology. Make sense? Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Super cool. Thank you. That's why, I really do think this is, in a way, the most important session of the day, because it's actually personally actionable and useful. Let's start with the diversity table, because I was on that one. Can you guys share what you came up with?
I think we focused on number 14 and 15, which is biodiversity, both above and below water, and on land, and that just satisfied the need for variety and sustainability in that sense.
Okay, so here we are aligning a highest goal of diversity with the Sustainable Development Goals, which actually are life below water and life on land, which is about biodiversity. For me, I really resonated with that because those are the ones I actually personally care about the most as well. Who wants to go next? Certainty or love and connection? Love and connection.
Thank you. Hi, I've been nominated by the group. I hope it's okay if I speak for y'all. Something, you're the autocrat, but I feel connected to you. We looked at the sustainable goals. I definitely think that number 1, number 2, and number 4 resonated for a bunch of us. I think some of us feel like we naturally educate all day long, regardless. That would be you, sir. And it seems as if poverty and hunger are things that really can be addressed through individual acts. You don't necessarily need institutions to do it for you. And it is also, those are arenas where if you get an aggregate of individuals connecting, you really can have an outsized impact. Anybody else have any?
Perfect. Great. I didn't connect very well with my group, unfortunately.
But
for me, 17 really speaks.
Partnerships and the goals?
Yeah.
And that's just sort of connecting and working together to make the world a better place.
It's got connection in the title. Yeah. So yeah, totally. I guess it just didn't get down to the bottom there, but that makes a lot of sense, right?
Thank you so much. I will say that in our group, I said, I bet this one would pick poverty. So I think it's kind of interesting that we did, well, just because love and connection, and that's humans, you care about humans. Okay, guys, should we go to you next?
We all care about humans.
Well, we all care about humans, but some of us also care more about fish. No, I don't know. I'm just kidding. Okay, so who wants to speak here? This is growth. Okay, Dallas.
So this table was centered around growth, and what we found aligned best aligned with our growth goals were 3 and 4. The mental, or not mental, the, I can't read from this far, good health and well-being, and the education. So if you can grow toward a standard of good health, good education, good well-being, then that sets the precedent, sets the framework for the proper growth in whatever else would come. And we were also speaking about how we wanted, or we were looking at other options or other sustainable development goals like 8, 9, and 11, but without the 3 and 4, you have nothing to build on. You have almost no substance, so to speak.
Did you guys feel like you had consensus, or was there's some sense that there were a lot of these goals that resonated, or did it really land on those? A lot. Okay, let's go to certainty. I'm assuming that because you're certainty, you have one solid goal and that you don't care about anything else. No, just kidding. Who's going to speak? Terry?
Thank you. Certainty, because we are certain that we are in agreement, and that's our certainty. We are in agreement that number 3 is our primary goal, and the reason is that we believe that's the only goal which has an innerness, meaning that the other conditions look more like external conditions of life, you know? And it's like the quality of water. That's, of course, very important, but this is a physical condition of your life. And if you can develop or help people develop in your entourage more well-being, of course, health, but more well-being, and well-being has multiple facets, you know, it's not just physical, it's also psychological, social, cultural, but also spiritual. And if you can develop that inside of you, the rest will follow in a way. And we said that our saying would be the change you want to see in the world. And that's the primary condition, because you can be very unhappy in very favorable conditions.
Especially when your needs are being met.
Okay, well, so we got 4 groups, several goals. I hope this has been useful for you guys, thinking about how you align the internal with the external. It's just a quick taste of that, but you know, start with know thyself and then move it outward. So do you have any final comments? I know that we really need to get up there to catch that bus, so.
Just
Go ahead. There's a bus that goes to the Fairmont, Southampton for closing cocktails with the Bermuda Tourism Association. So there's the next Tech Week event, which is starting at like 6 o'clock. No idea. But we're all, essentially, I think half of the group already took the first bus to that. So, you know, we'll kind of finish here, head upstairs, see who's in the lobby, and then anybody who wants to go for drinks at the Fairmont can do so in Southampton. But do you have a closing word?
just because we did this exercise based on the first need being met, whenever you look at these sustainable goals, consider how the other needs are being met and how you can incorporate that into your own life and address it in a way that'll actually make or encourage a behavioral change for yourself and maybe even the people around you when you have those conversations. If it is in fact important to you, that would be a great way to incorporate it in your life and apply it where it helps you and as well as other people.